And just like that, the cycle spins anew. Here we go again. As spring dies and summer kicks into gear, we get a whole new load of anime dropped on our laps like some lost puppy looking for a home. Thanks. I didn't ask for this. So I guess I had to use my tried and tested method for picking to help me with that hard decision. That's right. Finding a bunch of cities, coincidentally enough, named after the anime this season, and whichever ones were burned down by the end of the riots were my winners. Oh, I'm sorry, did that one hit a little too close to home for people? That's been 2020 in a goddamn nutshell so far. An absolute dumpster fire. Is this year over yet? Shut the hell up, Titus, that wasn't a joke. Anyway, I ended up with these. Dokyuu Hentai HxEros looks like if you cross Sentai with porn. Monster Musume no Oishasan tries to cash in on the already milked monster girl trend in the predictable ecchi way. Lapis Re lights is blending idols and magical girls into a school story that'll probably be boring as hell. Silver Link throws Maou Gakuin no Futekigousha in our faces, hoping a demonic overlord can spice up a high school setting. Chou Futsuu Toshi Kashiwa Densetsu R is a quick comedy time waster with preachers and girls at school. Mappa gets one last chance with the God of High School, a series about high school kids beating each other to death. Sorry, another series about high school kids beating each other to death. ReZero finally steps up to the plate after its setbacks in spring to give us the long-awaited Season 2. Nuts dropping Deca-Dence, a sci-fi post-apocalyptic series that's looking like it's going to be a better version of Listeners. No Gun's Life Season 2 is here to hit us with more of that sick cyberpunk high. Uzaki-chan wa Asobitai is big titty kohai pestering senpai into friendship for the sake of ecchi comedy. Kanojo Okarishimasu is some rom-com insanity about renting girlfriends. Peter Grill to Kenja no Jikan has women wanting to sleep with the strongest guy. And that's probably the entire joke. Ninja Collection's a quick horror anime about ninjas fighting, massive air quotes here, the darkness in modern day. We've got batshit insane horror with Gibiate throwing samurais and ninjas from the past at monsters in the future. And because I want something completely different, Koito producer EVOL X Love is an otome game adaptation about superpowers, music, and romance. The ecchi genre is essentially herpes this season at a glance since everything's revolving around it, and my optimism is at peak levels if you can't tell. So let's just dive into this season before I lose any will to live that I have left. Starting things off with Dokyuu Hentai HxEros. Or is it Dokyuu Hentai HxEros? HxEros? Ugh, that's a mouthful. Oh, it's HxEros. Sure, let's go with that. This one's presented like a typical Saturday morning sort of anime, with a guy in high school who's secretly a hero that fights bad guys out to take over Earth. Think Power Rangers. But instead of using robots, they fight with the power of nudity and arousal. Oh, that's just perfect. Anyway, these aliens suck out human arousal and desire, leaving people as functioning members of society with absolutely no sex drive, leading to a declining population. Our main character fights these things for revenge for trying to suck out his first love's desire, but instead embarrassing her so much that she turned into a total bitch to any boy until he's able to reawaken her desires and they fight together. And for that, the premise is out there enough that it flows, but it's still quirky as hell. That alone is a decent draw since it's combining ecchi comedy with sci-fi and romance drama. The animation is okay, nothing offensively bad, but certainly standard in every aspect. Character models look like average anime, action is pretty bare bones, and most shots have pretty flat composition, so it's not super engaging from a visual standpoint. Unless you like bra or panty shots, or shining tits. Either way, it's a very average ecchi comedy with an off-the-wall story that makes it somewhat enjoyable to watch. How about some more ecchi comedy with Monster Musume no Oishasan? So in a world with humans and demi-humans living together in harmony, after they just got tired of killing each other, we get a doctor who specializes in treating monster girls. It's a younger guy who's pretty new to this whole medical field thing with a Lamia assistant who's in love with him, and gets jealous over the fact that he gets paid to fondle tits. Oh, and his patients all hit on him pretty hard too. Comedy-wise, it's, subtle? Not like the jokes are low-key, but practically non-existent. It's not doing it for me. Animation-wise, it's teetering on the bad end of the spectrum. A lot of CG that barely blends in with the drawn art. The line work is fine, I suppose, but characters are a bit misproportioned. Plus, backgrounds are a little too detailed in most scenes, leading to the composition looking flat. I honestly wish they had put that much effort into the actual characters, so they look nicer, but whatever. If you like girlish moans and catfights, it'll be right up your alley. But for me, I'm really not feeling it. Alright, I'm sick of stuff trying to appeal to my basal instincts already, so let's look at Lapis Re lights to dig us out of this slump. So it's a show about a girl going to a magical academy to become an idol. Yeah, we're combining music and magical girls now. Deal with it. The series uses magic and fantasy as a framework to spice up the dull idol formula of forming a group and building a following by having these girls who can do amazing shit using it to enhance their performances. I can't decide if that's clever or dumb. Magic is special in this world, but not rare, so it makes sense narratively. It's also nice to see them break away from characters trying to be superheroes with this sort of power. The animation is just okay, nothing really stands out about it, but it's competently done. There's decent shot composition and flow, so I can't complain or say it impedes my enjoyment. I mean, what else is there really to want from a show? It's got cute girls doing magical idol things. It's got appeal. I'm kinda into it with this first episode. Next, let's look at Maou Gakuin no Futekigousha, in case the whole magical fantasy school shtick wasn't worn out on you yet. This one's about a demon lord who just got sick of being evil for a while, and decided to fuck off and reincarnate at a later date. By that point, demons were lazy, and had a school for deciding who was the next demon lord. So when he comes back, he's poised to be the head honcho again, until these idiots don't recognize his potential and label him a misfit. So now he's fighting to be recognized for his potential and reclaim his throne. For whatever reason, this one works. It's got a decent plot, a smug protagonist, and an uphill battle for me to actually give a shit about. And while it's a sadistic bloodbath, I'm digging how much the show wallows in its own absurdity. The animation here isn't great, but I can look past it. Movements are a bit stiff, even if the art itself looks fine. Overall, it's a pretty decent watch that I'm sticking with for now. Time to look at Chou Futsuu Toshi Kashiwa Densetsu R, which is meant to be off-the-wall crazy. I'm getting some toned back Inferno Cop vibes off this series, using static models that don't move, besides their mouths, and obviously ripped from the internet low-res photos for backgrounds. Now where have I seen that before? And that's part of the joke. They were going for that cobbled together look. It's absolute nonsense, and if you like shows that purposefully try to confuse the audience for a laugh, check it out. But good luck finding a place to watch it since it's not getting licensed. As for me, it wasn't zany enough to get me to laugh, so I'll probably drop it. Mappa's getting one more shot to change my rapidly declining opinion of their studio with God of High School. So let's look at that. Another Korean webtoon series adapted into a Japanese anime licensed by Crunchyroll. Sound familiar? It's about a kid who's a super badass fighter and gets pulled into a tournament fighting other kids who are borrowing powers from supernatural entities so that they can have any wish they want granted. While it has that typical shonen feel, the kind-hearted protagonist who puts others above himself, loves food, and is insanely strong fighting in a tournament, it's actually well executed. Animation-wise, it's decently done. We'll see if Mappa can actually keep it up this time. But there's some legitimate nice camera moves in this that are damn impressive, while adding scope to scenes. Though the art itself is a bit questionable at times. Like no, seriously, what's up with the ears here? That's pretty minor in the grand scheme of things. Overall, it's pretty good, and a definite recommend for shonen fans this season. After a whole season of being delayed, it's finally time we got our hands on ReZero again. And, well, this is embarrassing. There's not much I can say about it. Look, I'm only vaguely invested in this one since I thought ReZero was just okay. It wasn't groundbreaking, but enjoyable enough. This season is picking up literally where season 1 left off, If you're already a fan of ReZero's story and world, it's natural you're gonna check this out. What it does well is it's kicking it off with an intriguing arc right away, so at least there's no downtime. Animation, art, and such are still on point too, so it's not a downgrade if you were worried about that. Not much else to say besides, watch it. Or if you don't like ReZero or Isekai, don't. Next up, we have Deca-Dence, Nuts foray into post-apocalyptic anime. If that studio sounds familiar, it's the people who did the saga of Tanya the Evil. Some invading lifeform showed up on Earth and kicked our collective asses so hard, we had to fuck off to a massive mobile tank fortress the size of a city to stay alive. So now humans are fighting back using some technology that lets us fly and kill the big-ass monsters by sucking their blood. From that premise alone, I like this one since it lays out the rules of the world, introduces our main character, and gives us a reason to care about her within the first few minutes of the episode. The diesel punk aesthetic adds some cool style to the setting and art that builds intrigue too, since I want to know more about the world right away. Art-wise, it's got highs and lows though. The moment-to-moment designs and colors are flat as hell, not even really using shading. But it packs personality in showing how the characters are feeling. And when the series wants to pack a punch, it can certainly deliver. Oh, especially in these fight scenes. I'm absolutely loving the camera work here. Definitely one to check out this season if you're looking for some cool action. Returning this season is No Gun's Life, a show from fall 2019 that I didn't hate with a burning passion, for turning out to be a decent cyberpunk story with mystery elements. Season 2 kicks things off with a bang by having a jumpstart to the plot, something that I thought was lacking in the first season, so it comes in swinging. Mostly by reintroducing a few dangling plot threads from last time in an interesting way. The animation doesn't seem to have improved though, which is a shame, as it's still stiff at times. Either way, if you liked Season 1, or want a sci-fi series that's not so standard in anime, give this one a look. Moving on to Uzaki-chan wa Asobitai, which can be a little on the nose if you ask me. We get it, OP, she has big tits. So a guy in college bumps into an underclassman he had in high school who just enrolled. She's an energetic, outgoing girl who's happy to see him again. The problem is, he's not into that whole energetic and outgoing thing, and is just coasting through college as a loner. After a whole year, yes, this show condenses an entire year of these characters' lives in before the opening credits of the first episode, she declares his loner days are over because she's there to be his friend. If you find the juxtaposition of an extrovert and introvert funny, and not at all insulting, it's got some charm. As for the humor itself, the obvious teasing and looks perverted without context gets old quick. We get it. She laughs at him for being a loner, and she has big tits. Oh great, now I'm harping on it. Anyway, animation isn't bad for what this series is. Most slice-of-life comedies tend to have overly simplistic style, but there's a decent amount of detail put into character models, backgrounds, and animation. Probably because they can show off the jiggles. But that's just a hunch. If you like the cringy teasing humor and boobs, it's probably right up your alley. For me, I've seen it a million times, and I'm not impressed by this one. Let's vary things up by looking at Kanojo Okarishimasu. So our dude Kazuya here is a loser college student who's dating a pretty cute girl. When out of the blue, she dumps him after only a month of dating. Cucked into despair by his own imagination, he stumbles on a website that lets users pick cute girls to go on actual dates with. Which he does. And while that initially seems cringy as hell with the dude falling for a borderline prostitute named Chizuru, it turns it on its head when he realizes it was all business and tries to tell her off. Which is great, because I honestly wasn't looking forward to a girl of the week setup. Anyway, these two get their lives entangled in one another's, and they have to put on the airs of dating for a little while for their families. While the story isn't that cringy, the humor is. It's the type of stuff that makes you feel embarrassed for the protagonist. I don't usually dig that sort of comedy, but it works fairly well here, as the characters are all pretty damn relatable. Even Chizuru has some good points that make the audience give a crap about her. And hey, the style's nice too. A neat sketched look that looks good in motion with a varied color palette that makes the series stand out visually. One of the few options this season with a distinct feel. I'm loving that manga look. If you're looking for a good comedy this season, this is it. Check it out. Are you sick of the ecchi yet? Too bad, because we've got Peter Grill to Kenja no Jikan, which is a short form, meaning half of the episode length series, about the world's strongest. So our boy here wins a martial arts tournament to decide who's the fairest in all the land. Naturally, being such an immense badass means women want to sleep with him so they can get knocked up with his superior genes. Not just human girls either. It's the basic plug-and-play love story plot of women fawning over the guy for insert reason, and the girl he actually likes he can't get with because of his harem / her father / she's got the mental faculties of a 7-year-old. So if you're interested in a guy trying his best to get away from sex-hungry girls so he can be with his true love, failing, and that being played for comedy, this'll hit your senses. A saving grace, despite being a short-form anime, they did put quite a bit of effort into the animation. Character models, motion, framing, and even camera moves are decently varied to make for a visually engaging experience besides the lewd humor aspect. Overall, if you're gonna pick up some ecchi this time around, this would be one of the better choices, since it's not wasting as much of your time, and at least looks nice. Oh, thank God. Now for a complete change of pace, Ninja Collection is a horror series set in modern day. A spin-off of Yamai Shibai to pander to all 3 people who watch that. The story is about these ancient protector ninjas that are sworn to fight the nebulous darkness using techniques passed down through the generations. This one's weird, and certainly not for everyone, but as often as I put on the airs of a hipster who cares too much about artistic style, I was already in love with this one from the start. With character designs that harken back to 80s animation, a film grain overlay, and trying to capture a picture book or manga sort of vibe, contrasted with audio that sounds more akin to a radio drama, this wasn't made for mass appeal. And I like it. There's an artistic vision here, about a story that the creator wants to tell and how they want it told. I don't think the horror aspect lands, however, as it's a bit too much of the, ooh, spooky, try-hard nonsense, but it's intriguing enough to warrant a further look, and with a 5-minute runtime, I can certainly give it that. Let's stick with horror for a bit longer and look at Gibiate. So in the not-so-distant future of 2030, when Corona mutates and turns people into physical monsters rather than just ones on the inside, a samurai and ninja travel through time to help a professor come up with a cure for the disease. Apparently, when no one was looking, Japan decided to start creating anime by throwing darts at a list of tropes. But who am I to complain? Actually, it's worse than that. This was apparently developed by a group of Japanese creators who worked on Final Fantasy, Resident Evil, Is franchise, famous shamisen players, and a guitarist from Luna Sea. So, expect a group of teens killing a giant blob of human flesh in corporate greed by the end of this. Aside from that, the series starts with a massive plot dump about how it all started, with exposition, retreading information, and just a ton of characters accepting stuff for little reason. I found this one hard to care about. Animation-wise, it has some decent direction and the art itself is passable, though clearly they spent more time on the character models than making the movements look good. Nothing stands out as atrociously bad, but it's also not selling me on the series either, especially since it has so many names behind it. There's a lot of balls in the air for this series, so we'll see if it can stick the landing. I'm not holding my breath though. And last up, we have an otome game adaptation by MAPPA. Koito Producers is about a girl who inherits a damn near failing production company from her father and has to take on the role of producer to keep the place afloat. Whilst doing that, she meets 4 boys who are impossible. I mean, like an idol, a top neuroscientist, a financial expert, and a detective.
One of these things is not like the others.
And each of them has a special power called EVOL. Oh my god, it's love spelled backwards. Hitting the nail a bit too hard on the head, aren't we? It's well presented, if anything. The characters are introduced well, they have a solid reason to stick together, and the romance and superpowers angle should give the series enough longevity to stick through the season, especially since it looks like it'll be leaning on the slice of life elements for the majority of the series to explore those aspects. And in this season packed with ecchi and junk food, I'm really just happy there's something that looks good and is taking itself seriously. For animation, it doesn't really have a style besides anime, but it looks good. Characters move well, designs are at least varied enough that I don't mistake the characters, and it's incredibly polished. See? I don't hate things that don't look special. I just tend to think they have to excel at it if they don't want to. Check it out if you're looking for some quirky love story this season. Now that I've gotten my hands on these, I can say summer 2020 isn't as bleak as I thought it would be. Don't get me wrong, it's not good, but I think there's enough trashy stuff this season to at least be dumb fun. And that's all I can ask for, really, to be entertained. But even with that low expectation, I'll probably end up disappointed. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. I want to give a special shout out to Deita-chan for some excellent fan art this week. Go check out her page. She does some excellent work. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, bell notification, and all the other YouTube stuff that helps the channel grow. You can also join my Discord with a link down in the description. If you really like my content and want to support me, you can head over to my Patreon to pick up some extra perks like voting on what I do next. And speaking of Patreon supporters, I would like to give a special thanks to Volcarona for their continued support. Thanks for watching, and here's to another season.